Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at basically guilds and what I think should change when it comes to guilds, and hopefully what will come with all the really cool changes in Midnight. So let's talk about guilds. You will notice if you ever watch my videos that I am not part of guilds. I'm not part of any guilds. I have not been part of a proper guild for around 2 years, and there's a couple of reasons to this. Firstly, have not found one, and secondly, I have not found one. Guilds for me have been stripped quite significantly, and I think they need to make some changes to bring them back to where they are a great in-game mechanic for a lot of players. So I'm going to talk about that here. We'll go through 5 things that I believe they can really do to help revive guilds for me. So firstly, let's talk about guilds in general. So one thing that I will say about guilds used to have incredibly broken reward mechanics. People who started guilds were pushing to have as many members as possible, because whenever you earned gold, the guild would get generated a portion. So if you did a quest, for example, the guild would be generated a portion of your rewards. Now, in essence, that sounds great, but it became a very easily spammable feature that became very rudimentary method to making gold for a lot of players. Talking hundreds of thousands of gold, only accessible by GMs who didn't do anything but basically make giant ad hoc Discord servers. So I understand why they removed it, but they need to bring back some kind of guild currency, whether that's a guild currency that is earned from players just playing the game. So they earn this currency from playing the game or doing events together or guild events, but there needs to be a guild currency that guild members or guild leaders can spend on things like buffs. One of the great examples I use is from Guild Wars, where players can donate currency and special guild currencies by doing events and dungeons, and use that to purchase banners or buffs for their team, which is always something that is helpful. A 2% damage buff or a 5% movement speed buff is always really cool. And speaking of guild buffs, they need to bring real consideration into proper guild buffing. So at this point in time, I believe guilds do not have a standard buffing system. So in WoW, you used to get a lot of buffs. So you used to get like a ridiculously large amount of buffs that used to really help you out. But now you don't really have that anymore. So you used to have quite a few buffs. Now it's kind of all been softly removed. And basically you don't really get a whole bunch of big buffs anymore, and this is understandable for a certain reason, again similar to the gold one, where people are kind of abusing them. But I think there should definitely be some guild buffs that are usable, whether that is things like instacasts on guild banks, whether that is things like additional casts of certain abilities, whether that is guild-wide abilities like guild teleports or guild revivals. There has to be some kind of guild buffing that helps, whether it's just in terms of your day-to-day, like being able to cast a buff or cast a spell once per day that allows you to double your gathering for 10 minutes. Who cares? But the point is there should be some kind of group reward for being in a guild. And that reward should be one that is fair, but also allows players to really feel the benefits of working together towards a guild in combination with the guild currency. One thing that I do like that they are doing is they are creating the ability to create guild housing areas. Now this is very good, and it's a good movement in Midnight towards creating guild hubs, but they do need to recreate or use this as an opportunity to generate a physical guild hub. A lot of the problem with guilds is that it requires players to meet up, which isn't a huge problem if you're raiding in that in a very social, good, heavy guild, but you need to have physical appearance with players. Yes, I say physical in an MMO, but it's always good to meet players, to put names to faces in guilds. I think that is something that is always criminal. Whenever you join a guild and they just talk and it's great, but then no one ever meets up to do anything. By creating some kind of centralized guild hub that exists to a certain extent, you will be able to create a space where players can go, whether it's just for repairs, or easy access to teleports to certain places, or maybe there's just a guild vendor there that is the only place where you can buy the guild heirloom or the guild transmog or etc., the guild mount, etc. I think there definitely needs to be a standard physical hub. Now I hope the housing really assists with that. I really do, and we'll see if it does, but I think it's very important. So we have some guild mounts, and this speaks more towards guild rewards. We have heirloom, we have guild mounts, we have pets, we have some recipes and things, and these are all fine. I do think they need a bit of an update, like they need a regular update, a per expansion update, something to, again, just give players more agency for staying in their guild. But even then, they should allow for like guild loyalty rewards, whether that's a special tabard for staying in your guild for numerous years, whether that is, some kind of new special pet reward or something that you can get. Whatever it is, it's important that there is a guild reward system, whether players can give you certain things or there is some manner of obtaining these rewards outside of doing guild achievements, and that there must always be some kind of guild reward system that is frequently updated, because this will help players a lot with being able to really enjoy partaking in a guild, and also help growing new guilds, because it will be more about length of time that you spent or maybe activity that you do, which is always super duper helpful. Finally, the guild chat. Now this is a difficult one because I think with the advent of things like Discord, in-game chat and the out-of-game chat are two completely different things. It was always this way, but with things like TeamSpeak, you didn't have designated servers for certain activities. So when you were doing things like TeamSpeak, you could speak to each other, but for the most part, guild communication had to come in through the game. Now, in terms of nowadays, your biggest issue is that, yes, guild events can appear in calendar and things like that, but a lot of external tools are used to help manage guilds. And that's not a huge problem at all, and I don't think you can ever stop that from happening, because people just don't have World of Warcraft open all the time. So it doesn't make sense to only have certain tools. But I think in general, updating the tools that we use in-game to schedule things and do things as a guild would be a big suggestion for me. Making the interface more inhabitable, making message boards or ways to have a bit more presentation or flair. For example, when I used to book guild events for my team, you kind of just get this, but maybe if there was a way to, for example, change the logo, add a bit more flair, and just in general put in a little bit more effort, I think it will help, and it will create a better atmosphere for guild members. Same with notification systems, same with everything like that. Especially if you play on the RP server or you're in an active raiding guild, you want to have as much effort as possible when it comes to raiding. But yeah, so that's that from me. Those are just my thoughts on guilds. Obviously, as someone who's not been in one for a while, chopping and changing, and I sit in purgatory on one guild, which is a friend of mine's, where it's just me and basically 3 other people. I feel like if there's a bit more effort put into the tools, it will help players like me who just quite frankly don't see a point in guilds anymore. With pugging, with things like that, I don't really see the incentive of creating connections and things like that, especially with the way the community somehow is. So I think it would be a good idea to do so, and I'm super excited to see if they can make some of those changes. and if they're heading in the right direction with midnight. But that's it from me. Bye.